Spent some time in San Francisco. I spent a night there in the can. They threw this drunk man in my jail cell. I took $15 from that man. Left him my watch and my old house key. Don't want folks thinking that I'd steal. Then I thanked him as I was leaving, and I headed out for Bakersfield. Hey, you don't know me, but you don't like me. Say you care less how I feel. But how many of you that sit and judge me ever walk the streets of Bakersfield? Hey, you don't know me, but you don't like me. Say you care less how I feel. But how many...
On 920 WGHQ, 1260 WBNR.
Good morning. You're now listening to Kingston Community Radio, airing on FM 92.5 and AM 920, WGHQ, Kingston, New York. This programming is brought to you by our listeners and corporate underwriters who are interested in presenting local community radio. The opinions expressed on this program do not represent those of Pamel Broadcasting or Kingston Community Radio. Listeners are encouraged to send in $10 per month to help bring this program to you, and mail your contributions to Kingston Community Radio, Post Office Box 4364, Kingston, New York 12402. For more information or to donate online, visit our website at mykcr.org. And good morning, this is Dan Gatis, and thank you for sharing the morning with us. It's Monday, January 4th, and 30 degrees here in uptown Kingston. Weather and forecast for Kingston and the surrounding areas. 30% chance of a few more snow showers around this morning, and otherwise mostly cloudy, a high of 39. Tonight, cloudy with a few flurries possible, a low of 27. And Tuesday, considerable clouds early, and then less cloudy as the day progresses, a high of 38. And Tuesday night, a few clouds, low 25. Wednesday, sunshine along with some cloudy intervals, a high of 38. And Wednesday night, mostly clear, a low 23. And it does not seem that we have any snow emergency in the Kingston area.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM. And also online at mykcr.org.
Okay, let's settle down. Since today is career day, stand up and tell the class what you want to be when you grow up.
I want to be a pilot,
soccer player, fireman,
a judge.
Kids dream big. As a parent, you can protect those dreams by keeping your kids healthy well into adulthood. If your son or daughter is 11 or 12 years old, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help protect them from 6 types of HPV cancers later in life. To learn more, visit cancer.org/dreambig.
Hey everybody, Rachel Ray here. Nothing brings a bigger smile to my face than cooking up a big meal for the whole family and lots of friends. But there's not enough room at my table for the 17 million kids in our country who struggle with hunger. That's why the Feeding America nationwide network of food banks collects surplus food to give hope to hungry kids. But they can't do it without your help. Support Feeding America and your local food bank at feedingamerica.org.
A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Moms, we don't know how you do it all, but you do. You are part teacher, counselor, chef, and doctor, all rock star. Being a mom today is complicated and sometimes unpredictable, but it's those precious moments that make your journey together crazy and wonderful. At the American Heart Association, we know your family is why. That's why we're here for you, to make sure more of those moments happen. To make sure a healthier, longer life is possible for you and your family. We're impacting laws that help shape healthier communities, but we can't do it without you. Moms are at the heart of change. So here's to you, Mom. Here's to impacting the health of our future. Moms United can make real change. Start by visiting lifeiswhy.org/moms. The American Heart Association and the American Stroke Association. Life is why.
Hi, this is Fran Riccio, and I support Kingston Community Radio because I like listening to it.
And you're here listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ 920, on your AM dial, 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. KCR is talk radio. Your number is 331-9255. Call in, 7 to 9 a.m., weekdays. It is your radio station. And it is a Monday. It is a medical Monday. And Dr. Eric Stanberg is here. And good morning, Dr. Stanberg. How are you?
All right, good morning. Welcome to the first show of 2021. It's actually, I'm ruffling papers there. It's actually a beautiful winter morning, kind of mild at the same time.
It's kind of mild. Luckily, it was all the streets, correct me if I'm wrong, all the streets were just wet this morning, by and large.
Yeah.
So I have not gotten word, as I usually do, for a snow emergency, so I think Kingston has dodged the bullet, so to speak, when it comes to having to do a snow emergency. I don't think there was over 3 inches of snow.
Well, I was driving in thinking, I was thinking about kids, and how I don't think anything symbolizes the difference between adults and kids as much as snow.
That's true.
Kids, it's fun and a day off, and adults, it's drudgery and shoveling. And anyway, so this would probably be a delayed opening for kids. My guess,
I'm going to look.
But I think they're all hope.
We always publish cancellations.com. Let's see what there is. It is interesting because there might be one or two.
For the most part, kids are learning from home. So the idea of a delayed opening.
What's that? What's that?
I was joking about when I had to work from home for a couple of weeks, I would be late for work. I would somehow be late to get to my kitchen table, to set up the computer and.
Barring a blizzard, we're probably virtually able to get online 24/7 anyway. So, what the heck?
Right. All right. So I'll be here until 9 a.m. Robin Baker will be joining us. I have a little bit of a problem as well. My glasses fogged up on the way over, and I took them off in the car, and I left them in the car. So I'll do my best until the break to read my notes.
Okay? I've got some reading glasses.
Oh, hey, all right.
Okay.
That'll be good.
Okay.
Good enough. I think we got to talk about COVID. It's here, and I think, unfortunately, predictions that the holidays would bring about gatherings and therefore spread of the virus are true. At the same time, and we did talk about this the last time I was here, the vaccine has also arrived, and there's also been a major shift in treatment. And I think we need to go over all those subjects. Cases are up, although I will say one of the hard things about doing the show on Monday is that there are no numbers released over the weekend. I do go looking for them. But cases are up, and I do worry about our infrastructure to do testing. I still am not convinced that we in Ulster County, and probably other counties as well, have the resources to do the level of testing that's needed, and that does concern me. We talked about on other shows, we've talked about where you can get the testing done. Thanks, Dan. All right. Are these yours?
Yeah. All
right. Dan is lending me his glasses, and I look like I already look smarter putting the glasses on. So I've always said the things that we're going to change this. From day one, I've always felt the importance of identifying cases as much as possible, as soon as possible, so appropriate precautions can be taken and isolation techniques. I thought we talked about the importance of a prevention strategy, namely a vaccine, and also just treatment. When this first hit, at this point, we're going back, we're inching up on a year. I mean, it was kind of like a March 1st type thing, maybe an April 1st thing, and it'll be here before you know it. We really didn't have any treatment. The treatment was hope for the best, and as soon as somebody started to get sick, they were put on a ventilator. And some other treatments were done, but they're really not done anymore. I came up recently with a patient that I diagnosed and treated as an outpatient. She gasped, what about hydroxychloroquine? And I had to remind her that that's really out. It's just not a treatment. I feel now that we know that it was not effective. I remember feeling surprised that it was even going to be even that the proposal that it was going to be effective surprised me. That this is hydroxychloroquine is a kind of an immune suppressant, and it is also an anti-malarial drug, and so it really how that somehow worked on a virus. I was very confused about. So anyway, the point I'm trying to make is that how dramatically treatment has changed over the year. So let's talk about the not so good news first, which is the growing number of cases. I live in Tilson, and I drive up 32 every morning to come to work in Kingston. I drove past now, and we have an urgent care in Tilson. And they are doing rapid testing, kind of like as a self-pay setup. And I am amazed every morning at the line outside this place, particularly when I drove past on Saturday. I mean, I don't know. I can't estimate how many people were in line, but really, it's pretty remarkable. So these are people who probably need to get tested. They maybe they've been exposed, maybe they want to travel, maybe their employer's requiring it, and they're really left with no option but to basically pay out of their pocket. There is a difference, a little bit for the insurance versus not insurance, and I don't know the exact fee. I've heard different reports. I think it's about $125. I don't know if that's if someone's listening and they know about this, you're welcome to call in to set me straight. And I absolutely don't criticize the people who run the urgent care. I think that they're providing a service that's needed in this county. I think the criticism is why the rest of the county is not providing the service, and that is really what concerns me more. You can get tested through the pharmacies. I think it's an online setup. You go over to CVS these days and go to the drive-thru. There's a long line, and those are mostly people that get tested. So it's probably, not worth your time to get your prescriptions picked up that way. You're probably best going inside where service is very normal and efficient. The Health Alliance is still running a test site over on Grand Street. I think it's a similar process, where you have to kind of book either book a time online, or you just kind of go and wait in line. It's not a rapid test, and I still think the best way to do it is through your healthcare provider. The problem with that is everyone's kind of a little overrun right now, so there's only so many slots that can be accommodated. But I feel that it's a medical test, and I think like any other test, it is best administered with kind of evaluating and explaining, and then a system in place to explain the results. People who are having positive tests from some of these other places that I just mentioned, it seems to be, okay, here's your test, it's positive, call your doctor. So that kind of, I don't know, that kind of, it's like another step for you. So that's just something to keep in mind. I do think that you should call your healthcare provider first. If your healthcare provider cannot accommodate you, then go look for another place if you feel you need to get tested. If you're having symptoms, I think you should be evaluated. Now, that term evaluated has changed in the past year as well because of contagious issues. You can be evaluated over the phone, which is not desirable. You could be evaluated via a telemedicine appointment, which is probably the best option. To have you come in is risky. It poses a risk for other people in the office, including the people that work there. So if you're having symptoms consistent with healthcare, with COVID, you should start by calling your healthcare provider. All right. I received my first dose of the vaccine last week. Where we had phase 1 defined, we have phase 2 defined. We are still in phase 1, so they can define phase 2 as much as they want. We're not in it yet. Phase 1 is basically people of higher risk in an institutionalized setting, like a nursing home, and also direct healthcare providers, doctors, nurses, other frontline providers, and I was able to get my vaccine last Tuesday. My arm was sore for about 2 days. Not much different than getting a flu shot or another shot. So that was the only side effect I have to report to you. I'll need another dose. They gave me a very specific date that I have to go after. I think it was January 21st. So let's just review information regarding the vaccines. Phase 2, which has been defined but we're not in yet, is for people 75 and older, and also people, certain types of essential employees. And that also needs to be defined. What exactly is an essential employee? I think it means police departments, fire departments. I also, my daughter works as kind of a caseworker. She works as a caseworker for a adoption agency. She goes into people's homes. I mean, I think she probably meets the definition of a essential worker, but I don't really know. It needs to be defined a little bit more clearly, as far as I could tell. All right, so the vaccine. This is a review of what we talked about last time we were here 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was more than that. There are 2 companies that now have the approved vaccine: Pfizer, which is spelled with a P, and Moderna. The Pfizer vaccine is for people 16 and older. The Moderna vaccine is for people 18 and older. Both of them are approved as a 2-dose regimen. Now, this is very, very confusing. When I got the vaccine, they give you required paperwork. And I'm a doctor, and I've been doing this for a couple of years. I was a little confused by the paperwork that was given to me, because in the paperwork it says this is not an approved vaccine. Well, that's pretty alarming if you're sitting there all ready to get the vaccine and you're being told it's not an approved vaccine. I think we're getting wrapped up in semantics, and I think it's unfortunate, because further down it says there was emergency approval for this vaccine, and I think that's confusing. Anyway, so basically what they're trying to say is that the normal route that the approval process goes through was sped up for the sake of basically for the sake of us and helping our communities and fight this pandemic. So I thought the wording in the paperwork was unfortunate, and I'm prepared for people to get a little confused by that. So, because if it's not approved, why are we giving it out? Well, it's approved on an emergency basis, and I just want to clarify that. The Pfizer vaccine is given 21 days apart. The Moderna vaccine is 28 days apart. I have no idea why there's a difference. There's no maximal interval. That's a minimal interview. Okay, interval. So, for example, if you got the vaccine and then 19 days later you go to get the second dose of the Pfizer vaccine, that's wrong. It has to be a minimum of 21 days. So if you go on day 23, 24, that's fine. Even later, I mean, that's a general rule of vaccines. People fall behind their regimens, especially in the pediatric world. Appointments are missed or whatever. Generally, you just resume the vaccination system where you left off. There's no problem with that. Okay, let's see. It is not recommended to switch the vaccines. In other words, if you start with day 1 of the Pfizer one, your second dose should be the Pfizer one, and vice versa. You should not get the Pfizer for first dose and then the Moderna for second dose. It's not recommended to give with other vaccines, like your flu shot. And it's also recommended to not get it if you've had a vaccine within 14 days. I think that's just because of the unknown, that we really just want to kind of isolate. It's kind of like when I prescribe. I'll have an appointment with someone, and maybe they need something. You know, we've decided to put them on a blood pressure medicine and something for their cholesterol. I'll sometimes say to them, "Well, why don't you start the blood pressure med, and if you're doing well, a couple weeks later, start the cholesterol med. Because if you start them both spontaneously, and maybe there's a side effect, and you don't really know which one's doing it. So it's kind of that same idea of having a window outside of other vaccines like the flu shot. That's a little bit different because the flu shot is commonly or frequently administered along with the pneumonia vaccine, kind of. But those two vaccines, we've had a while. We don't really know if you're going to require long-term boosters. I think my notes are out of order here. The vaccine. Who gets the vaccine eventually? The answer is everyone. We want, the list of the only reason to not get this vaccine is if you've had a allergic reaction to the vaccine. We don't really know if you're going to have an allergic reaction to the vaccine until after you give it. So but there are some areas of caution. Thank you. There we go. This whole idea of antibody testing, I never found this helpful. The only value of it, so the idea was that, somebody had COVID, maybe they had COVID, check some antibodies. So everyone had a story, including myself, of being sick in February of last year. Oh, maybe that was COVID. Eventually I got the antibodies. It was negative. I just had a bronchitis. This was not a helpful test. I can't think of any patient where that's how we diagnosed the COVID. I had one patient who had the antibody test done, and it was kind of like a borderline result. And we didn't know what to make of it, so we just repeated it, and it normalized. So it was also not helpful. We were giving what's called convalescent serum. So if someone had COVID, we could then take some of their serum with antibodies in it and potentially administer that to people who are sick with COVID. And that would be that was a treatment that's now kind of been supplanted by a treatment that we're going to get to eventually. But I think for the most part, antibody testing is useless. I think we should just stop even talking about it. It is still coming up, though, with patients, but it's just not helpful. And one of the reasons it is not helpful is it's still recommended to get the vaccine, even if you have antibodies, even if you had COVID. We're starting to see people maybe get this a second time. We don't really know what type of protection you get long term after having this. So checking antibodies is kind of a fool's errand. If you've had COVID, you should wait at least 90 days before considering the vaccine. And also, we're going to talk about this antibody treatment, but if you had that treatment as well, you should wait 90 days. That's also a little misleading because you would not have had the antibody treatment unless you had COVID. So it's kind of the same thing. It's recommended for people that are immunocompromised, people with HIV, people on immunosuppressive medications. It's recommended for people with autoimmune disorder. There's something called Guillain-Barré syndrome, which is a autoimmune reaction to your nerves. It can be very serious, kind of like a paralyzing illness. It has different causes, one of which is viruses. Another cause, it has been linked to some vaccines. But if you have a history of that, it is still recommended. If you're breastfeeding, you should get it. Pregnancy, the jury's still out a little bit, but the answer is probably yes. We're amazed at the effectiveness of these vaccines. I'm amazed. They're both about 95% effective. Side effects. There are some unconfirmed reports of Bell's palsy, which is kind of a nerve weakness of a side of your face. That probably merits its own discussion at some point. But that's not verified. The other side effects are all what could be expected with any vaccine: swelling to the area, redness to the area, some swollen glands, and kind of maybe in your neck or your armpit, some low-grade fever, fatigue, headache, chills, achiness. When you're sick with something, you have all these non-specific symptoms: malaise, achiness. That's really not so much the infection that's causing this, but your body reacting to the infection. So it's your immune system kind of mobilizing. We always have this discussion with fever. Fever to some degree is your body fighting an infection. Well, at some point, fever becomes kind of dysfunctional because it causes its own problems. So we recommend bringing the fever down. But there's always been a debate. Hey, you're running 100, 101 fever. That's your body fighting the infection. Don't intervene. I am surprised at the frequency of side effects with the vaccine. Around 80% of people will report one symptom, so that's a lot of people. And around half the people will have a systemic symptom, kind of this achiness or feverishness. They will last 1 to 3 days, moderate in severity. It's actually more likely with the second dose. A couple years ago, I had the shingles vaccine. That's given in 2 doses, and that's the same thing happened to me. I had the first one, it was sore, but when I had the second one, it was more sore, and I did feel kind of a little punky for a couple days. All right, allergic reactions. We're coming. They're very low, okay, to have an allergic reaction. And almost the level of placebo. For example, placebo is basically a sham dose, and it's kind of complicated, but we use placebos to study something. If we want to, so the Pfizer vaccine has an allergic reaction in 0.63% versus 0.51% of placebo. The Moderna, it's in higher rate of allergic reaction, 1.5% versus 1.1%. Precautions. This is important because I did have a patient who has a history of multiple allergies that I kind of said, all right, maybe we'll not give it to you. Maybe you concern me enough to not even recommend it to you. So it says it's okay to give if you're allergic to other vaccines. You have to observe for 15 minutes. If you have a history of anaphylaxis to the vaccine, you got to be observed for 30 minutes. Well, anaphylaxis is serious. So this is an evolving process. But the take-home message is that almost everyone eventually should get the vaccine. We have to roll it out. There are concerns about the rollout process. And if we are meeting the demand of that we need, we have a big nation here, 330 million people. And I have been saying that for a while. When the vaccine arrives, it's we were paraphrasing Winston Churchill, right? It was not the beginning of the end, but maybe the end of the beginning. But kind of Winston Churchill famously playing with words, but at some point giving us a sense of hope.
Yes.
There's that. Anyway, it's amazing how we kind of can draw parallels to this public health emergency with, other trying times in history.
There are very, very many, and I can't quote them right now, but I was looking at the Oxford English Dictionary Word of the Year. There are 30. We have invented many new words. It's a litany of our experience.
I believe
shelter in place is a new word. Many new words.
That's one word, shelter in place.
Well, it is. It is a word in the sense that it gives you a definition, and it's a term. Yeah,
it's a living language. Every word was invented at some point, I guess.
Yes, exactly. So, and many have been derived from the other pandemics, other human experience with pandemic. A lot of the words have been borrowed again.
I think I always found it interesting how biology words have found their way into computers. A computer virus.
Right.
I remember they would talk about worms. So your computer's been infected. I mean, it's an interesting concept.
Absolutely, and the new terminology that youth has. Kids that have been born from 2000 on up is unbelievable. The new language.
Well, kids have always had their own jargon.
Our terminology has definitely changed in the last year, hugely.
Hugely, is that a word?
Hugely is a word, definitely. And
wait a minute. So hugely was not a word before. It was never an adverb.
No. It's been a word.
Yeah, all right.
It's been a word, but it's just an adverb for huge. But Yeah, I mean the terminology is it breaches all areas. It includes the social upheavals and the political upheavals that have gone
Right.
on as well.
It's it's okay. It's a living thing. Our language. All right, so we're up at our first break. We're here till 9. Feel free to call with any questions or comments. I forget the number.
And it's 339. What? Let me 331 9255. Thank you, Dr. Eric Stanberg. And yes, we'll take our. What did you say?
I've infected your brain now.
Yeah, 331-9255. And yes, we're on our first break. It's 7:30 a.m. right now, and you're listening to KCR, Kingston Community Radio on AM 920 and 92.5 FM, 7 to 9 a.m. every weekday. My name is Dan Gatus, and it is Monday, January 4th, 30 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. And yes, there are some closures that are worth mentioning. Learning Together is on a 2-hour delay. Center for Spectrum Services Kingston is on a 2-hour delay. New Paltz Central School District, out-of-district special ed, and private parochial buses are on a 2-hour delay. Saugerties Central School District is on a 2-hour delay. And Kingston City School District, welcome back to the staff, but Kingston City School District isn't open for students. Red Hook Central School District, a delay schedule in effect. You would know what it is if you were from the Red Hook Central School District. Rondout Valley Central School District is continuing its remote instruction until January 15th. And weather and forecast for Kingston and the surrounding areas, a 30% chance of a few more snow flurries around this morning, and otherwise mostly cloudy, a high of 39. Tonight, cloudy, a few flurries possible, a low of 27. And Tuesday, considerable clouds early, then less cloudy as the day progresses, a high of 38. And Tuesday night, a few clouds, low 25. Wednesday, sunshine along with some cloudy intervals, a high of 38. Wednesday night, mostly clear, low 23. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Okay, let's settle down. Since today is career day, stand up and tell the class what you want to be when you grow up.
I want to be a pilot, soccer player, fireman, a judge.
Kids dream big. As a parent, you can protect those dreams by keeping your kids healthy well into adulthood. If your son or daughter is 11 or 12 years old, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help protect them from 6 types of HPV cancers later in life. To learn more, visit cancer.org/dreambig.
To be able to just get my son to St. Jude and not think about how we will pay for it, it just takes so much weight off of my family. St. Jude allowed me to focus on being a mom to Bryce. And sometimes I'm just in awe of the impact St. Jude has, not only on this community, but the world.
St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Don't. Just don't. If you see a low-hanging or downed wire, don't touch it. Don't move it. Don't go near it. Don't drive over it. It may be a power line carrying an electric current strong enough to kill. But here's what to do. Stay at least 30 feet away and call 911. Central Hudson will take care of the problem. If you come close to a wire, shuffle away with small steps and watch your step. Wires may be hidden in fallen tree limbs or near water. Your safety matters.
Hi, this is Cameron Rylance from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio because it's informative.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and thank you for listening. It's 30 degrees on this Monday, January 4th, and Kingston Community Radio is talk radio, so your number is 331-9255. And this upcoming segment of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Central Hudson. And let's get back to the on-air studio with Dr. Eric Stanberg and now Robin Baker.
All right, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the second half hour of this morning's show. We were talking a lot so far about the vaccine and how I got remember. Were you listening?
Yes.
How'd it sound?
Good.
Thank you. Thank you, Robin. This is correct. Okay, so let's talk about treatment because I think this is a game changer. We really had no treatment for outpatients. When I diagnosed COVID with someone, they would be like, "Well, what should I do?" In my head, I'm thinking, go home and let's hope for the best. And it's a virus. Antibiotics have no role. We've already discussed how hydroxychloroquine was a big bust and should not be done. It really has not been shown benefit of steroids in outpatients. It is used in people that are admitted with COVID, basically once they start to develop respiratory symptoms. But we have this treatment now, which is a monoclonal antibody, and I think this is important because I've been ordering it for a couple patients, and I think they're doing great. All right. So who is a candidate for this treatment? And what is it?
It's an intravenous treatment.
It's an intravenous treatment. So it's basically antibodies to COVID that are going to be given to an individual sick with COVID and really just giving a boost to help someone fight the infection. It's not a new concept. We have used antibodies like this in several other situations. It's used sometimes for people exposed to rabies. It's used certain times when, like in the neonatal world, when a baby is born to like a mother with some infection like hepatitis, for example, it's given to prevent the baby from getting hepatitis. So it's not a new concept, and it is what the president received in October when he was admitted, and he seems to have done very well with it. So now. It was nice of him to volunteer to be the, kind of the guinea pig, so to speak, because he did well, and that makes me more comfortable recommending it to other people. Did you know he volunteered to be the guinea pig?
No, I didn't.
All right, we have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I have a question I'd like to ask. This is to do with vaccine. First, if I get Botox shots every 3 months, in fact, I'm due to get it this Thursday, how safe would it be for me to get the vaccine after I would get Botox?
I don't think there's a reason. I don't think they're related. The Botox shot is not an antibody. It's a tox. It's kind of related to botulism toxin. So it's really. I don't think there's a difference. So I don't think there should be a correlation. I think that if you're over 75, right?
Yeah, I'm 85. So.
Yeah, I think that when phase 2 gets rolled out, then we're not in phase 2 yet. You should consider getting the vaccine.
Okay. One thing, that happened, all right, well, I could talk about happened with the vaccine that time in Wisconsin, what that pharmacist did. I mean, that was horrible that he destroyed all that vaccine.
Wait, what happened? I only heard kind of whispers of that story.
I'm sorry, I didn't.
What happened? I'm not really aware of the whole story.
Okay, what happened was the vaccine he had was the one that was supposed to be kept in the freezer, and he took it out and deliberately, it was unfrozen.
Sabotaged.
Well, why would he do such a thing?
And then he later on put it back in the freezer. And meantime, after he had done this, he did vaccinate people with it. And I didn't even know how they caught him, and he admitted to it, that he had done this.
And he did it on purpose?
On purpose. It was done on purpose.
Why would he do such a thing on purpose? I mean, vaccines have to be, they're different, and there's different levels of temperature that they need to be stored in. The nurses at my office spend a lot of time and energy checking the refrigerators, making sure that they're working, and that the vaccines are stored properly. So it is a system that can potentially go wrong unintentionally. Machines break. Someone simply makes a human error. But in this case, I guess you're saying the pharmacist did this on purpose.
He did it on purpose. He admitted to having done it on purpose.
All right. Well, that makes no sense.
No, I know. The person is sick to do something like that.
I don't know if he I don't know if there's any risk to the patients. I just think they were probably given a vaccine that's not effective.
Yeah, that's what they think happened. It was not effective, what they were given, so they would have to be probably, revaccinated against it.
Okay.
For somebody to do that, it's
well, I
sad
told
when people do that,
I had my vaccine last week. It went well. My arm did fall off, but it's been surgically reattached.
Did not. You're so silly.
No, I'm joking, of course. It was sore for about a day.
Yeah.
I was supposed to pitch.
With a single shot you get. I had that too, and your arm was sore for a few days after it.
Right, that's normal.
So I'm glad that they do have the vaccine, and I hope that people will accept it, so that I know there's people who can't get it because of allergies and stuff, but
a very small group of people who should not get it.
Will get it, so I would like to wish you all a happy New Year, and I hope it's going to be a good one for all of you and for all of us, so.
All right, thank you. Happy New Year to you, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, take care. Bye.
Okay, so this treatment. So there was no, when I diagnosed this as an outpatient, there was no treatment. By the way, it's one of my concerns with people getting tested outside of already kind of having contact with their healthcare provider. We talked about that a little bit in the first half hour about, the need for testing, whether or not our county is meeting that need, whether or not we have the infrastructure to meet that need. But this is one of the concerns I have. Somebody is going to go to another facility, get their own test. There's even now home testing. I saw a commercial for it. And, they're going to maybe be a candidate for this treatment, but, no one's there to really offer to them, So who should get this treatment?
Well, there's specific criteria right now.
There are specific criteria.
You can't just ask for this treatment and go get it.
Right. So let's review the criteria. First of all, you have to have a diagnosed case of COVID. And so in other words, it can't just be, I have symptoms, the tests aren't back yet, but you can't start the treatment until the diagnosis has been confirmed. And initially they said the treatment should be given within 7 days of symptom onset. But it's been extended to 10 days. That's a pretty long period. All right, so.
The treatment is the monoclonal antibodies.
Right, yes. It's by the company is Regeneron, which actually is fairly local. I saw a patient who works for Regeneron, and we made a little small talk. I said, you guys are this little quiet company, and now you're in the center of all this, And she said that it felt good. This is what she had done.
All that work.
She was a researcher, and that she felt that her work had done some good. It's a good feeling. All right, so who should get it? Well, the FDA has defined high-risk individuals. If you have a body mass index greater than or equal to 35, so overweight people. I had a patient last week, a young woman, 30, but overweight. So she qualified and got the treatment. And she was not feeling well. I wonder how she's doing now. Hopefully she'll check in this week. People with chronic kidney disease. Now, notice how that's a little open-ended. What does that mean, chronic kidney disease? I guess it's up for me to decide. Diabetes. That's a biggie. A lot of people have that. People with an immunosuppressive disease, autoimmune conditions like lupus, or people that are currently receiving immunosuppressive treatment. That's usually the same individuals, ironically. Also, people with cancer, on cancer treatments might be candidates. This is a biggie, though. Are greater than or at least 65 years old. This criteria is a little bit more complicated than the one that I follow. Robin looked this up for me, but are greater than or at least 55 years old and have cardiovascular disease or hypertension or COPD. We're not. I must say, locally, we're not really following some of this criteria, at least not yet. And then initially they said it's not for younger patients, but it looks like it has been recommended for teenagers between 12 and 17 who are greater than 85th percentile with their BMI or some other criteria. So what are the biggies? The biggies are age, obesity, diabetes, and a little bit of a gray area about just your how sick you are.
But there's a window here.
The window is initially was 7 days, but I think it's been extended to 10 days. So it is a window, but it's a pretty big window. So what happens is when I have a patient who is a candidate for this, and I had one on Saturday. She called Saturday night, quite sick with COVID, woman in her 70s. She'd been diagnosed by the urgent care that New Vance runs up at the Kingston Medical Mall, prior site of Macy's. And we were able to have her get the treatment yesterday morning. So how do we get the treatment? I have to facilitate it, or the healthcare provider. I have to contact the infectious disease specialist on call. These are doctors out of the Medical Associates of Hudson Valley. Dr. Tack, Cutler, Yanofsky, Froud. And they work very, very hard. They have been working very, very hard. They worked hard before this happened. They're working harder now. But they have been very receptive to reviewing the case with me. But once I get their approval, I then call either the emergency room at Northern Dutchess Hospital and then communicate it to the ER doctor. Robin and I were talking to a nurse at the infusion center at Health Alliance, which is on the campus of Benedictine Hospital, and that they also can do it. I have not used that yet. I probably will, and I think this is going to come up a lot. But why am I emphasizing this so much? Because this is a really good treatment, and the evidence that it's effective is very, very good, and it could really prevent someone from going south with this condition.
Do you compare it to when someone got the flu before, it was common for them to be given Theraflu or...
Theraflu is just an over-the-counter, symptomatic. I think you mean Tamiflu.
Tamiflu, I'm sorry. Yeah, I was saying the wrong thing. It was similar in that it could reduce the symptoms of the flu if you got it within a certain amount of time. But if you were outside your window or...
Well, the pharmacology behind the two treatments is really different. Tamiflu is an antiviral agent that specifically targets the flu virus and inhibits it, whereas what we're talking about is an antibody treatment, so it's really kind of doing what your immune system should do. So
Right, I was reading about it. It attacks the spikes, those protein spikes.
What gives the coronavirus that picture of looking like it has a crown around it. That's where the whole term comes from, corona. Interesting, right?
Right. So these antibodies then are directed to attack those spikes.
Right. It's like giving yourself like a 2-week head start and booster to fight this infection. Tamiflu, the evidence was really not great as to how effective it was. The data really showed a shortened duration of symptoms by 1 or 2 days, and you really had to institute it within 48 hours of symptom onset. It does have a role with prevention. It was used in a nursing home setting if there was an outbreak of the flu. We do have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Dr. Stanberg. Good morning, Robin.
Oh, an expert is here. How are you, sir?
I'm tired. How about you? Monday morning.
Tired.
Good. Another day, another week, another year.
Yeah. So I just wanted to point out a couple things about what you were just talking about.
Sure.
So there are actually 2 separate companies that are making the monoclonal antibodies.
Okay.
Regeneron is one, and the other one is Lilly. They essentially have the exact same criteria for use, but they are different drugs. Lilly has just one monoclonal antibody against the M spike. Regeneron actually has 2. Doesn't make it better, just different.
Right.
The Lilly supply is a little more available currently. We have both, although we have more of the Lilly than the Regeneron. And it's as we use it, the more you use, the more you get. It's an interesting distribution by the state. It's very controlled. And the criteria we're using actually are very much the ones that Robin and you listed. We are using the 55 and above with, certain comorbid conditions, 65 below with BMIs greater than. Yesterday I had a husband and wife and the wife had a BMI of 32, the husband 35. They're both in their 50s, early 50s. Neither one had any other criteria. He got the monoclonal antibody. She didn't, because he met the criteria. And
Interesting.
And we have to follow that, because if we get reviewed and somebody said, you gave it to somebody outside of the criteria, we won't get any more. Okay, they'll cut off the supply. So, very much the way the vaccines have to be used in the populations they're approved for right now. You can't be selling them or giving them out to our friends.
Right.
The monoclonal antibodies. Now, they're not doing it at the infusion center at Benny. It's going to be at the ER, but they're going to be using infusion nurses.
I see.
We're using so much of this now that we're beginning to have an impact on the nurses' abilities to see patients in the ER, because we don't know when these cases are going to come up and how many are going to come up at a time. The infusions are a 1 hour infusion with 1 hour of monitoring afterwards. So it's a 2 to 2.5 hour process, because we pre-medicate people with Benadryl and Tylenol as well.
Are you seeing reactions, Dr. Tack?
There are mild. We've had some mild reactions. So we've had some mild reactions. Certainly nothing life-threatening has happened here. There is the potential for anaphylaxis, like there is to any antibiotic, actually. But because this is new, we talk about vaccines and the potential. People worry about the potential side effects of vaccines, but certainly no one's died, and we've given out millions of vaccines now. These drugs have only been given out to, thousands of patients, not millions yet, and they're given intravenously. And so, as a precaution, they're given under a monitored setting. There has to be the ability to reverse anaphylaxis available at the site. It's one of the reasons, Robin, we're not doing it at our infusion center.
Right.
We don't want that. Plus, we don't want. It's very challenging to create a safe environment to move patients who are COVID-19 positive in and out of your facility. At the emergency rooms like Northern Dutchess and Kingston Hospital, we have the patients call into the ER from the parking lot, and they're escorted, in an isolated fashion into an isolation room, so that they don't expose people in the waiting rooms and registration in other areas. Right. It's a very controlled environment.
Do you share my optimism that this is a good treatment?
Anecdotally, certainly we have not had any patients who've gotten the monoclonal antibodies come back, land up on oxygen, or intubated, or admitted to the hospital. So that's a positive. I'm familiar with some of the data that hasn't yet been published, which is that it shuts down viral replication within 24 hours. So there's no more, you can't find the virus replicating. But we do know from some of the early data that you have to give this drug early. The clinical picture can continue on for several days, even with the antibody. And so if you don't give it early enough, it may not be effective, which is why it's not approved for people that require oxygen or require hospitalization.
Kind of too late.
So
too late.
You're doing something very important here today. We have to get the information out to doctors and to the community that if you're positive and if you're in one of these groups, you have this opportunity. Don't lose it, because we've had several patients come in. They knew they were positive. They were at home. They didn't, their doctor or their clinic or their urgency center didn't tell them or didn't think about this. And by the time they showed up in the emergency room sick, it was too late. And several of those patients have passed away. And we've lost that opportunity. Now, I don't know what would have happened. I'm not saying it would have gone differently. But it's certainly worth a try, and it's a window, as we keep talking about. And that getting those patients into the system in that window is critical if we're going to save lives.
I covered urgent care yesterday, and I had a patient, a man in his 50s with diabetes. The rapid test was positive. That's a question. Are we okay with that, or do we want to confirm it through a test?
We're accepting it. That is one of the things we've sort of, they want the PCR, but if the patient is having symptoms and if they meet criteria and their rapid test is positive, we're generally not going to turn them away.
Okay.
I mean, who wants to be the guy who said, no, we'll wait for 3 days for the next test and something goes wrong?
Right.
I mean, there are rules, and the rules you have to have a positive test. We're really trying to be, we're trying to be as liberal as we can with patients who are positive, because again, we're trying to save people's lives here. People are dying, despite some of the political stuff. You and I know what's going on out there.
Right, I do actually.
People are dying, and we're trying to. Anybody who dies now, between now and the time they could have gotten a vaccine, that's just a lost life. We have the chance to, if we can keep these people alive for 2-3 months, the country gets vaccinated. What a different world we're going to be in.
Yeah.
So hopefully I was able to just clarify some of those issues. We do, both hospitals do have, the monoclonal antibodies available, and they're both very user-friendly. They are. I've talked to Dr. Wilson, the CMO, over at Northern Dutchess many times, and, he's really stepped up, and so has, Dr. Doyle over at Health Alliance. And they're both really, and both the ER directors are also very, very supportive of this, and really have been, I've done this at 2:00 in the morning sometimes, and they just do it. No complaining, just let's get it done.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, Dr. Tack, you are vaccinated. I know you had the vaccine.
Number 2 tomorrow.
Oh, he's already up to dose number 2?
Okay. Just wanted to make sure the audience knew that, and just ask you how you're feeling. Any?
I was sore for about one night, probably about the same as with my flu shot and my tetanus shot. Certainly nothing worse. That's been the majority of the people that I know that got vaccines. A couple of people had some low-grade fevers and some chills, and you know what? It's a really simple form. We vaccinated in the last 3 days. We vaccinated 1.5 million people in the United States. Okay, nobody died from the vaccine. Yet we're losing 3,000 people a day to the virus.
Yeah.
So it's really, this is, when they talk about what's a no-brainer, it's like me handing you the winning lottery ticket. Okay? No, I don't want that. You give it to somebody else. Come on. I mean, this is the winning lottery. This is the ticket back to hugging your kids and spending. I saw my son and daughter-in-law this weekend for the second time in a year. Okay, because we couldn't see each other. I mean, we were very careful. They quarantined a little bit. I got the vaccine. We tested everybody a couple of times. It was and it was still nerve-wracking. But I think my wife would have had a breakout if she didn't get to see our kids.
Right.
When do you? Right now, we're still kind of in phase 1 of the vaccine. When do you think we're going to start kind of phase 2?
Well, today's phase 1B. So today, January 4th, opens up phase 1B. Phase 1B is people, the rest of my practice, and doctors like us in our community. So the doctors like Dr. Moss and Dr. in your practice, Dr. DeCola and others, doctors who are in the office, dentists, receptionists who are having direct patient care. So healthcare workers who are in private practices, not in hospitals, who are having direct contact with patients are in the group that opens up today. So that's 1B. And 1C will be essential workers and people over 75. And that should open up either the 11th or the 18th in 1 or 2 weeks, depending upon the supply of vaccine available in the state.
And where can you get your vaccine right now, Dr. Tack, if you're eligible?
So if you, I'll show you the link later. I don't have it available. But if you go on the New York State Department of Health website, and we'll send it out to all of our employees that have patient care contact today. It's a website, and you can go on, and it'll list the various hospitals that are distributing the vaccine throughout the New York State, and actually has the times available, and you can book your appointment online. And then you just show up at various sites. So, for instance, Health Alliance is using the Foxhall Ambulatory Surgical Center in the back behind the emergency room. Northern Dutchess is on there. Mid-Hudson Regional. I don't know that Vaxxer is doing it. It probably is, but I didn't look that closely. Columbia Memorial, There are lots of places around Orange Regional, and you can make an appointment and you just show up, and they'll give you your vaccine. And depending on whether you get the Moderna vaccine or the Pfizer, you'll get an appointment to return in 3 or 4 weeks for your second dose.
Okay, great.
So, Robin, I will give you the information this morning. I don't have it in front of me, but I'll be glad to share the website with you, and you can go online because you qualify. You are a receptionist in an office having direct patient contact.
Fantastic.
All right.
Okay.
Yes,
So-
appreciate it so much, and appreciate your call this morning.
Yep, I'm going to get moving and get to the office and start seeing patients because, unfortunately, our COVID numbers are off the wall in the hospital right now. I was off this couple of days, and I was logged on last night, and it was frightening to look at. I mean frightening.
Yeah. Yeah, we're
Every time I think it's getting better, surprise.
the word overrun kind of crosses my mind sometimes,
Well, the fact that Vassar had to open up their new building just to pack you, the recovery room, to be a COVID ICU ward, so they can just put patients in this big room on ventilators and, like a warehouse because the hospital couldn't handle it. And that's not a criticism of the hospital. It's a criticism of our behavior around Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Right.
But it's a bad situation.
Yeah.
All right. Listen, you two have a great morning. Stay safe, stay healthy. Robin, you will. I'm happy to share with you that you will be getting a vaccine very soon.
Perfect. Thank you for all the work you're doing, Dr. Tack.
Thank you,
We
Mark.
appreciate it.
All right, you guys take care. Okay.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye. All right, we're going to go to a break.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg and Dr. Mark Tack. Thank you so much for this last quarter of Medical Monday. This is Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. Time is now 8:01 a.m., and it's Monday, January 4th, and 30 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. And this last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Central Hudson. Mid-Hudson Valley cancellations, Red Hook Central School District delay in effect. Learning Together, 2-hour delay. Center for Spectrum Services, Kingston, 2-hour delay. New Paltz Central School District, out-of-district central special ed and private parochial buses are on a 2-hour delay. Saugerties Central School District, 2-hour delay, and Rondout Valley continuing with its remote instruction until the 15th of January. Is 30% chance of a few more snow showers around this morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy with a high of 39. Tonight, cloudy with a few flurries possible, low 27. And Tuesday, considerable clouds early, and then less cloudy as the day progresses, a high of 38. Tuesday night, few clouds, low 25. Wednesday, sunshine along with some cloudy intervals, a high of 38. And Wednesday night, mostly clear, low of 23. And we'll be right back.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
The Home Energy Assistance Program can help make winter a little warmer this season, with financial grants to eligible households to help pay heating or utility bills. Are you in need of assistance or know someone who is? Find out more about the benefits and eligibility requirements of the HEAP program by contacting your County Department of Social Services or by visiting the Assistance Program section of Central Hudson's website, centralhudson.com. Don't. Just don't. If you see a low-hanging or downed wire, don't touch it. Don't move it. Don't go near it. Don't drive over it. It may be a power line carrying an electric current strong enough to kill. But here's what to do. Stay at least 30 feet away and call 911. Central Hudson will take care of the problem. If you come close to a wire, shuffle away with small steps and watch your step. Wires may be hidden in fallen tree limbs or near water. Your safety matters.
Hi, this is Shirley Stabe from Kingston, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
You're listening to WGHQ AM 920 and 92.5 FM, streaming online at mykcr.org. That's the home of Kingston Community Radio, 7 to 9 a.m. every weekday. And my name is Dan Gatus, and it is 8:04 a.m., Monday, January 4th, and 30 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. The following segment of KCR is brought to you by Herzog's. Stop by Herzog's Home and Paint Center in the Kingston Plaza for all of your home building and maintenance and painting needs, and discover the difference of buying local. Sales are ongoing. Visit herzogs.com. And let's get back to the on-air studio. Don't forget, our call-in number is 331-9255. Let's get back to the on-air studio with Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker. Welcome back.
All right, thank you. Welcome to the second half of this morning's show. Let's see. What do we do after the break?
Birthdays.
Birthdays. So let's see who we have. gotta go through the papers here. We want to wish a very happy birthday to a very special person who I get to look at for 2 hours every week. His name is Dan Gatus.
Happy birthday!
Yeah, he has
Dan.
to have a birthday someday during the year, right?
Dan is
today.
that's the voice you're hearing. So happy birthday, Dan! And he has, out of some weird conflict of interest, has declined his cow pie.
I have declined my cow pie.
But we are going to give him a virtual cow pie.
But thanks for announcing.
Moo. Ring the bell. Ring the bell. Very fun.
I need more cowbell. It's my Christopher Walken. Yeah.
More cowbell.
Yes. All right.
So that was so nice of Dr. Tack to call in. That was a lot of really good information. So the sum up is that if you're diagnosed as positive, there is a treatment, but you can miss your window. So you're going to want to make sure that you're aware that there's a treatment, that you're in contact with your doctor. Your doctor has to abide by many rules and guidelines.
But Mark was kind of making a point. I think the guidelines have actually broadened, which is interesting. But go on, Ron.
Right. No. Right. Because you were reading those, and the list that I had brought up and shown you was the Lilly. That was the Lilly vaccine. So the monoclonal antibody test.
And you know, I'm concerned. I never like things being ordered outside of context. I don't think it's good medicine. You know, why do I have to make an appointment to get the COVID test? Well, this is kind of the reason. You know, to see not just whether or not you should have the test. And the answer is you probably should. The other answer is because there might be treatment that you're a candidate for, and unless it's kind of like already kind of assessed, you might miss that opportunity.
Right.
That troubles me. About that. It comes up a lot, the idea of retesting. You know, this is, the evidence is really not there to support retesting.
Well, unfortunately, patients are up against things like their employers and other criteria, not allowing them to get along with their lives unless they are producing a negative test.
I say to the patient, look, I don't agree. I think you're okay, under the medical guideline, but if your employer's requiring a test, I guess we'll test you again.
Yeah.
It just shows you how sometimes the science is overridden by other agendas. A liability agenda, for example, that an employer, doesn't want that risk and be held responsible.
Right. Right. Is that better safe than sorry?
Yes. All right. So I just want to emphasize this new treatment and really want as many people as possible who qualify for it to get the treatment. All right.
And there are a lot of people who are ill right now.
Right.
I mean, amazingly enough.
We have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. I was wondering, I heard Albany Med is setting up a volunteer program that a pharmacist or nurse or someone in healthcare can administer the vaccine, volunteering their time. And I was very interested in that, to volunteer. But I'm wondering if Health Alliance is going to offer anything like that. or is there any way I could find out through Dr. Doyle or Health Alliance?
You sound like someone who's in the medical field, are you?
I am a nurse, yes.
Okay. The answer is I don't know. I agree with you. I've said it other weeks. I use the word infrastructure a lot. We can't just say, oh, by the way, we're going to start giving the vaccine. You need there's a lot of people. You need, is it going to be the doctor's offices, the hospitals? Is it going to be the pharmacists? Is it going to be the gymnasium at Kingston High School on a Saturday afternoon? Things like that. But I don't know any more than you do. But I'd like to think that we're going to have a system in place rather than long lines at CVS or similar to the lines that I see at the Rosendale Urgent Care every morning, people waiting to get tests.
I'm just curious, where did you hear about the call from Albany Med? Because I heard an ad on the radio yesterday on the NPR station that was reaching out for retired medical professionals and anyone interested in. But they're really, I didn't catch like a website or something that you could sign up.
For what? Did I administer the vaccine?
Yes.
Yeah, you can actually sign up online. I was going to do that, but of course I have to drive up there. And because I am still working, but I'm just working per diem, and so it would be, and there's probably a lot of people like myself that are willing to volunteer their time to administer the vaccine. And, I think that's great that Albany Med is asking for volunteers. Why can't we do that locally? I mean...
yeah, we'd have to reach out to Health Alliance. I'm sure things are being, I work for New Vance. I'm sure things are being discussed like that, with the organization, but I haven't heard anything more specific.
Okay.
Maybe.
And is there any, as far as the Moderna or the Pfizer, is there anyone better for certain age groups, or is it just a wash?
It's probably a wash, but there is, for some reason, the Pfizer is approved for 16 and older, and the Moderna is for 18 and older.
Okay.
The Pfizer, you give 21 days, as opposed to Moderna, you got to wait 28 days. There's really no major difference though beyond that.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
All right. Well, thank you for listening.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, very interesting. Maybe access that Department of Health website that Dr. Tack was talking about. Maybe there's a little more insight there on helping and volunteering. Right. This was a specific outreach, the ad that I heard towards retired medical professionals.
I'm a tired medical. Do I qualify?
Not a tired.
Retired.
Retired, yes.
Well, you've been tired twice. Tired the first time, and then you're tired the second time. You're retired.
By the way, it's worth noting that is so honorable of this woman, as a nurse, she's working per diem. She certainly does not have to put herself in harm's way of vaccinating the population, but that's how these medical professionals are. They put themselves in harm's way to help people, and it's very honorable. It's nice to hear.
One thing we say is times like this bring out the best in people, and unfortunately also bring out the worst in people.
Correct.
So this is an example of seeing the best in people.
Yep, very much so.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Dr. Tack communicated a concern that these hospitals are, Vassar had to open up. Vassar's a beautiful new building. I think it's supposed to be open today or officially next week or whatever. And he said, basically the PACU, which is
like a big open space.
I think it's, what does it stand for? What do I know? I think it's usually for people like coming out of surgery, to be monitored, like when you have an operation and then you go into that other place. Recovery, yeah. But anyway, it's being repurposed as a COVID unit. It sounds like, you see pictures of the flu epidemic from 1918, huge rooms, or polio epidemic, with, bed after bed. I mean, it's kind of like it conjures up images like that, except people are on ventilators.
Right. We reached a little bit of a stage here where I'm discussing with, people that I know who've gone through this entire time since last March without really knowing anybody who got sick, without having anyone in their family be sick, and they didn't really know anybody personally that got sick. Well, that's changed now. Right now I don't know anybody who doesn't know anybody.
Yeah.
Who has not been personally affected by this.
That's right, and that's been part of the problem. To kind of prepare people to be concerned about an invisible enemy. More than a few people have to have it affect them personally in order for them to understand that it's real and it has to be taken seriously.
Right. So let's not let our guard down. And I know everyone has this fatigue with their masks or their hand washing or their precautions, but let's just keep that up as best we can. Limiting gatherings.
Robin and I are human beings like anybody else, and we have, we look at ourselves and say, have we done the best job? And unfortunately, I don't think the answer is yes. So you and I, on a personal level, have to,
Right. Well, because of our work too, we're put out. We're not able to stay home and isolate, but.
One other change, we're talking about things that have changed. We talked about the vaccine, of course, big change, the antibody treatment, the big changes in the inpatient treatment. The rapid testing is becoming more available. We now have it, at the Kingston office. We're slugging around the value of it, because it's not as, there's still discussions about if it's as accurate or as sensitive as a send-out test. But now that time is of the essence with patients who may benefit from antibody treatment, we've decided to start doing the rapid test, and it's easy to do. And I think that's going to be a little bit of a game changer, too.
LabCorp has a new website. We started getting out this information at our office last week. They partnered with FedEx for a rapid in-home self-administered test. The website is www.pixel.labcorp.com. So it's called a Pixel test. That's what they're calling it. Again, the website is www.pixel.labcorp.com. And what happens is you go to the website, you register, and you'll receive a test in-home in 1 to 2 business days. You self-administer the test, which, by the way, is how we're administering the test now at our office. Patient is observed by a nurse, but they're self-administering the test, 10 swabs in each nostril, and returning it to the vial. And so, yes, just follow the directions of this test, and then you ship it back, and you'll have your result in 1 to 2 days. So people who are waiting in line or are in need of a test, this is maybe just another option for you. Our doctors are recommending it. So
it's interesting, because I'm looking it up as well. Kits are available at no upfront cost to those who meet clinical guidelines. They can bill your insurance. So because that's my first concern.
Yes. There was a $119 out-of-pocket cost if you're not insured, but they will certainly bill your insurance, and they take all that information at registration.
Right. I mean, the concerns I have about that is, first of all, it's in, the patient may or may not be doing the test correctly. That's a concern. Okay, you can say that about anything. I take home colon cancer test, so kind of the same concern. But that kind of out of context, that someone maybe could have symptoms and be a candidate for this treatment, but has decided because they couldn't get in elsewhere or whatever to just get a home test. And that does kind of,
right.
That's what concerns me.
Right. So definitely taking Dr. Stanberg's advice. I mean, if you are going to self-administer a home test, touch base with your doctor and let them know you're doing it.
I agree. But that's interesting. And I saw an ad for, I guess it's Quest. Basically there's 2 major lab companies,
Correct.
LabCorp and Quest, that are independent of the hospitals. And I saw the commercial probably for Quest's equivalent product, and so. All right. Well, that's it's interesting, and at least it's something, All right. Do you think we covered COVID enough?
It is the topic of the day, isn't it?
I know. We're almost 3/4 of our way through our morning here. All
right. Let's talk about something else.
Okay. I always think about it, this time of year, okay? It's not the biggest snowstorm of all, but say it was 7 or 8 inches, and what happens in the morning when people...
They go out and they shovel.
They shovel. Now, look, a lot of people have snowblowers now. By the way, snowblowers take a lot of energy, too.
Yeah.
I always see the guy, adjusting the... It's like, dude, you'd be done shoveling by now. Anyway, yeah, so this is always a setting where chest pain may occur. It's kind of a perfect storm in a way. You got the, middle-aged guy, from not in the best shape, goes outside. It's cold. By the way, cold is also something that increases demand on the heart, and then is kind of working out in a way that he or she
does
not usually, and gets chest pain, and very well, can get a heart attack. Kind of sometimes we call something like this a poor man's stress test. Because this is what would happen if they were to have a stress test. But we don't want it to happen this way. We'd rather have someone have a stress test where something like this would happen in a controlled setting. So what are the things that we worry about with chest pain? This is such a kind of bread and butter topic. Heart disease is so common. When we evaluate symptoms like this, if somebody comes in to see me and says, I'm having a little chest pain, the first thing I do is just look at review the history of the patient. The age of the patient. The older we are, the more likely it is that the heart disease. The gender of the patient. Men do get heart disease about probably 10 plus years prior to women. And then the risk factors. The risk factors of evaluating chest pain are very important. Does somebody have hypertension? And if they have hypertension, is it controlled? Way too many people do not have their hypertension controlled. I deal with this a lot. They come in for a checkup, your pressure's high. And then they almost seem like a kid who hasn't done their homework correctly. I was, start making excuses. I was very stressed out. I didn't sleep well. I had a lot of pressure at work. And that's that's fine. But it's still high. And I a lot of times I advocate the either start a medication, adjust a medication, add a medication, and there could be resistance, and that can be frustrating. The guidelines are pretty good to get that top number below 140, get that bottom number below 90, and to go one step further to get that top number 130 or below, and get that bottom number as close to 80 as possible.
All right, what's happening in your body if your pressure is 150 or higher, that top number? So. Okay.
Well, first of all, you don't have symptoms, okay?
You feel okay.
You feel okay. It's an old-fashioned term for hypertension was the silent killer, because you didn't know you had it. It does a lot basically. It increases the tone of your arteries and therefore increases the risk that you'll have a blockage, whether in your heart or in a stroke. But it does it over time as well. That's why it's the long game with high blood pressure. And then other organs that are affected are the kidneys can be affected, the eyes, the aorta can cause, if you have higher pressure, that aorta, every time the heart beats is kind of, pulsing, and then, eventually someone can get an aneurysm. And if someone has an aneurysm, having the high blood pressure will increase the risk that it's going to rupture. Anyway, so hypertension is an important risk factor for heart disease, and it's just very important that people get screened for hypertension and have it appropriately treated. I think that's a big topic. One of my, I make resolutions that are personal and professional, and my, professional resolution is really to, I probably have patients that I'm not making the case strong enough to, that I have to say this, no, this is high. That being said, there is talk about the topic of white coat hypertension. So I do put value in someone checking their blood pressure at home. You can get a blood pressure cuff; it's affordable. Take take a couple readings. Don't obsess about it. Don't take it 6 times a day. People do that too. That doesn't help things. But it's very helpful for me to have you give me good data. And there's even fancy electronic techniques now to get the data communicated to me directly and whatever. Anyway, so high blood pressure, big risk factor. Diabetes, big risk factor. Again, a lot of people with poorly controlled diabetes. Cholesterol. Cholesterol is also kind of like a silent killer, so to speak. And it's hard to explain to people, but all these years, get your cholesterol checked, get your cholesterol. A lot of times when I recommend a statin, which is the standard medication, it's really based on not even the numbers. It's based on the age of the patient, the gender of the patient. It's based upon the other risk factors. If you can check my numbers at 50, and maybe I don't need a medicine. I can have the exact same numbers at 70, but now I do need the medicine. So that could be a tough sell for people too. And then my friend took it, I'm achy, whatever. I take a statin, and I tolerate fine. And I do say to patients. So anyway, so what else? Smoking, big deal. Okay. So efforts to quit smoking and family history. You can't change the deck of cards that's dealt you. You can't change your gender. You can't change your age. You can't change your genetics. But you could stop smoking. You can improve your diet. You can lose weight. Being overweight increases your risk. You can control your risk factors: hypertension, diabetes, hyperlipidemia. Anyway, so that's the history that we get, But then when we ask about the symptoms, we want to know the story. I spend a lot of time saying to patients, tell me your story, And I work with students and residents, and I say, they taught us this. They said, let the patient tell you the story. And if you just give them a chance, most of them will do a pretty good job. Every now and then they need to be a little directed. They'll go down well, I was in the mall, I was in the parking lot of Walmart. No, maybe it was Target. I don't know. I think it was Walmart and, that type of thing. But what's your story? Well, I'm feeling fine. I went out to shovel, and I shoveled for about 5 minutes, and then I started to feel something in my chest. So what did you feel? Was it pain? Was it pressure? Was it squeezing? We also want to know if there's any associated symptoms. Did you start to sweat? Now, that could be kind of hard to interpret. You're shoveling. Maybe you're sweating a little because of that. Were you short of breath? Well, again, you're kind of exerting yourself. You're out of shape. Was there any radiation of the symptoms? The classic story is down the left arm. Actually, a more accurate depiction is true cardiac chest pain will radiate to both shoulders.
My ex-husband, experienced a heart attack, and the pain went up into his throat.
Are you typically into the left side of the neck? Radiate. If the problem with the heart involves the lower part, it can cause gastric symptoms, nausea, vomiting. Sometimes the sensation of heartburn is reported. All right. So those are the symptoms. You want the patient to describe the symptoms as much as possible. The context, as in shoveling, did your symptoms get, well, what did you do after you got the symptoms? Well, I sat down and they all went away. So occurred with physical exertion, relieved with rest. Those are all stories. And in the context of shoveling, someone gets a severe chest pain, and particularly that does not relent, you got to seek medical attention. Call it, I would call an ambulance for that. And I tend to try not to be histrionic about these things. Because this could be it. Wheezy, remember the Sanford and Son? He was always, was it Wheezy? No. It was Elizabeth.
It's a big one.
Yes. Wheezy was the Jeffersons.
Well, how can you convince someone that this is actually real? Because I know specifically very personal experiences in my past where certain men have had these experiences and have felt certain pain and have kind of ignored it and wrote it off as, it's when no one wants to be like overreactive or think they're they're actually ill right now. So
what are you talking about?
I can't think of the names, but I just know that it's easy to ignore this type of pain as, I pulled a muscle. I must have moved wrong. I tweaked something.
Right.
How can patients tell the difference?
Yeah. Well, basically, the symptoms should be evaluated and explained. If you're exerting yourself and you feel something in your chest, it needs to be evaluated. You're right, though. The people are in denial. No one really knows what a heart attack feels like, because they haven't had one before, And we'll return to that subject after the break. We are upon our last break of the morning.
Okay. Be right back.
All right.
Thank you, Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg. And you are with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, WGHQ, AM 920 and 92.5 FM. It's Monday, January 4th, and 30 degrees here in Uptown Kingston. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio has been brought to you by Herzog's. Herzog's provides color samples from Benjamin Moore paints, including the eco-friendly Aura line. Color decorating consultants and expert interior designers are ready to assist you in choosing the right colors. At colors and quality of paint you choose matters. Herzog's Paint and Design Center, located in the Kingston Plaza, is there for you. And the weather and forecast for Kingston and the surrounding area, a 30% chance of maybe a few more snow showers around this morning. Otherwise, mostly cloudy, a high of 39. Tonight, cloudy with a few flurries possible, low 27. Tuesday, considerable clouds early and then less cloudy as the day progresses. High of 38. Tuesday night, a few clouds, low 25. And Wednesday, sunshine along with some cloudy intervals, a high of 38. Wednesday night, mostly clear, a low down to 23.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM, and also online at mykcr.org.
Hey, I'm Haley Kiyoko, and I know what it's like to struggle with mental health issues. If you have a friend that's going through a tough time, now is the perfect moment to reach out. Learn how to start the conversation at seizetheawkward.org.
Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, and the JED Foundation.
Opiates has taken everything and everyone I've ever loved away from me. Everything.
I blew my ankle out and I got prescribed pain pills by my doctor.
If making my detox public is going to help somebody, I'm all for it. I just wish I would have had a warning.
Opioid dependence can happen after just 5 days. Know the truth, spread the truth. A message from Truth, the Ad Council, and ONDCP.
Hi, this is Scott Harrington from Hurley, and I support Kingston Community Radio because the people need a place to have their voice heard, and it's lost in corporate radio, so please keep listening and supporting our station.
And you're with us here at KCR, Kingston Community Radio, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, and streaming online at mykcr.org. KCR is talk radio, so your number is 331-9255. And thank you, listeners, for calling in today. This upcoming portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, locations near you. Some delays today. Red Hook Central School District is delayed for their standard delay. And Learning Together is a 2-hour delay. Center for Spectrum Services in Kingston is a 2-hour delay. New Paltz Central School District, out-of-district special ed and private parochial buses are on a 2-hour delay. Saugerties Central School District is on a 2-hour delay. Rondout Valley Central School District is continuing their remote instruction until the 15th of this month. Now let's get back to the on-air studio with Robin Baker and Dr. Eric Stanberg. Welcome back.
All right, thank you. We were talking about chest pain and when you should seek care. Robin was, I guess I'll briefly, share my story. When I was 43, and it was an unusual morning because I went to the gym in the morning. Never go in the gym in the morning, but when I was on the treadmill, I had a weird sensation in my chest. It was never 10 out of 10 crushing pain, and And then it kind of went down my arm. So I was like, well, this is weird. I didn't stop exercising. I said, maybe I'm having indigestion. And then it started to go to my arm. I said, maybe I pulled a muscle. And then I said to myself, maybe I have indigestion and pulled a muscle. So the powers of denial, are true. I finished exercising and symptoms relieved, went away. And actually, I remember I ran some errands, picked up some cleaning, went to Dunkin' Donuts to pick up a coffee, went home, got ready for work. We a dog that we had at the time went into the woods, and I went after the dog, and I had the pain come back, and at that point, my ex-wife wanted to call an ambulance, and then while she went to go do that, I just grabbed my car keys and I drove to work. And when I drove to work, I was coming to the back door of my office, and that had an episode where I collapsed. And so anyway, so the truth is that denial is very important. That people don't understand, including myself, that this was something serious. I was a 43, relatively young, otherwise fairly healthy. A little high blood pressure. A little bit of family history, but nothing like not a story where all the men in my family died when they were 50 of MIs. People do have those stories. Anyway.
Right. So it's easy to, talk yourself out of these symptoms.
Right.
But it's best to pay attention to them because,
right,
your chest usually doesn't hurt for nothing.
Well, there are some other causes of pain, and that's kind of my job when someone comes in to try to figure out what it is. Some of them are also serious. Other than a heart attack, you could be having an aortic dissection. That's a big deal. That sounds bad, doesn't it? A dissection is kind of like, people can have aortic aneurysms. Aneurysm is a abnormal dilation of something, and it's usually used to refer to arteries. So you could have, and commonly people say you have an aneurysm in your aorta, you can have an aneurysm in the brain. Dreaded complication of both these things is the rupture. It's analogous to, have you ever seen a pipe that then has a weakness and the way it kind of bubbles out until it breaks?
Like a bicycle tire with a
like
weak
a bicycle
spot.
tire. That's a good point too. And eventually that bubble bursts, and that's the rupture. And that could lead, that's almost always a fatal diagnosis for the aorta, and people can have ruptured aneurysms in their head that are very, very serious and can be fatal. The aorta can dissect. It's very complicated. It's a muscle. It's a tube that has muscles on it. It has different levels. So sometimes there could be a tear in the wall, and the blood can kind of come down that. Like almost like imagine like a stream that, and all of a sudden it breaks off in kind of like an alternative little stream, and then it meets up with it again, that type of thing. And that could be a dissection. Those are complicated. And some people can actually have those chronically, but that's beyond my decision. That's the purview of a cardiologist, a vascular surgeon. Pericarditis is a condition where there's inflammation around the heart. It can be very, very painful, very upsetting to the patient. It's not something that was potentially fatal, but boy, it could be very disabling, and certainly is in the list. A very common cause of chest pain is reflux of acid, heartburn, basically. That's why a person experiencing their first heart attack will commonly say it feels like heartburn. This is also common, just what I call chest wall pain. Sometimes it's specifically called costochondritis, but your ribs are complicated. There's a lot going on, and you're constantly using your chest. Every time you breathe, every time you move, you cough, you talk. These muscles the rib cage is expanding and contracting, and for various reasons, certain places can get irritated, and that can cause a certain type of chest pain. I usually look for the questions I usually ask are is it worsened by like certain movements? When you kind of twist, is it worsened like with a cough or a sneeze? Because things are kind of bearing down. How about just a deep breath? When things are kind of stretching out. Those are questions. This is the chest wall pain. I'm usually diagnosing in a younger patient. If I have a man a man or woman who's 60, has what is probably chest wall pain, but still has a lot of risk factors. I mean, the approach is different than a 30-year-old who otherwise healthy, and just they're pain. You press and they say, "Ow, that's it." It could be psychological, panic attacks. And this is I don't want to tell someone who might be having a heart attack that it's a panic attack. Certainly, having a heart attack is very anxiety provoking. So to then therefore take the anxiety and write off a potentially serious cause, it would be a mistake. But yes, panic attacks can cause chest pain. Pulmonary embolism, that's a scary diagnosis too. That could cause pain. That's when in your veins there's a clot, and it could be, typically it's in your legs, what's called a DVT, deep venous thrombosis, a clot in the deep part of your calf, and then it breaks loose and travels in your vena cava, goes into the right side of the heart, which then pumps it into the lungs, and it gets stuck in the lungs. That's a pulmonary embolus. The embolus means it's a clot that originates somewhere else, and those can be very serious too. Anyway, that's a list of possible causes. So what's the take home? The take home is if you're having any new symptoms, they need to be evaluated. You can't ignore them. If you are shoveling today and all of a sudden you start to have chest pain, you should call an ambulance. And I think that's the take home.
Yeah.
And all right, so
on the break, you discussed a scenario with me where it's too late.
Well, the sad stories are when again, I'll just make it kind of gender specific. Although heart disease in women is also an important topic. The man is outside shoveling, and the wife, looks out the window and just sees that he's down. And that's usually a fatal event. But scary stuff.
So take it easy out there. Take breaks.
Well,
don't push yourself too hard.
And if something's not going well, you got to take it seriously.
Yes. Take it seriously.
Yes. So what else did I want to go over today? The time we have left, which is not that much. I'm a little nervous to open up a big topic, but neuropathy. Ever anyone say they have neuropathy?
Yeah. It happens a lot.
What is neuropathy? It's weird, did you ever even hear that when you were younger?
Numbness, isn't it?
It's just a disease of your peripheral nerves. Well, okay, it's usually called peripheral neuropathy, okay. And the symptoms are varied. It could be a numbness, it could be a tingling, a burning, just an ache or a discomfort. Very hard to categorize. Symptoms are usually worse at night, and then why? Are symptoms just inherently worse at night, or is it because the person's all of a sudden now just laying in bed and, trying to rest and it's bothering them?
The nervous system is so complicated.
It is complicated. But it's so how would we diagnose it? Well, first of all, it's very common in people with diabetes. That's called diabetic peripheral neuropathy. And that could be a big problem because you're right, it can lead to loss of sensation. And that's when you can have a scenario with somebody, for example, have a very large ulcer at the bottom of their foot that they don't feel because they've lost the ability to feel it, but it's a very serious infection. And they lack the ability, to even shift their body around, so they just kind of constantly put more and more pressure on. It's a big problem. That's why when someone has diabetes, it's very important to check their feet. Patients should check their own feet, or they should ask their partner to check their feet. And as a doctor, I should be checking their feet on some schedule. Probably at least twice a year is a good rate. I'm not upset when my patients with diabetes choose to see a podiatrist. I think that's great. First of all, that's less I have to do, and I think the podiatrists probably do a much more thorough assessment of the patient's feet than I'm able to do. So I think that's fine as well. Plus nail care is very important with diabetes, and I don't do that, So again, I think that's not a bad idea, if you have diabetes, to be under the care of a podiatrist.
So the disease attacks the nerve endings that makes you not be able to feel anything?
Well, in that case, yes. But other than taking away your ability to feel it, it can also cause other symptoms. Kind of like a burning, a tingling, an aching, just a restless. Is it? Sometimes I wonder if it causes restless leg syndrome. Is restless leg syndrome a separate entity? Does a person have both? Because what the story is, sometimes they're trying to sleep and their feet are bothering them and they can't get comfortable and they can't sleep. And sometimes I say, is that neuropathy or is that restless leg or is it both? It could be an interesting assessment. So how do I work it up? Well, a good exam is always helpful. And I run some basic labs. Certainly make sure someone's not diabetic. I like to, vitamin B12 deficiency, I think, can be linked to neuropathy, and I tend to check that a lot and try to treat that. Where is it? It is here. Yes. Folic acid is also kind of related to B12. There's a very long list of causes. Alcohol is a biggie, by the way. Alcohol is toxic to many parts of your body, including your nerves. So, yes, alcoholics, people who drink too much alcohol will have neuropathy. That can be hard to treat.
We have a caller.
We do have a caller. Good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning. I want to ask a very fast question.
Okay.
I'm having a serious problem with a home health care agency here in Kingston.
Okay.
Well, they're saying that my worker is not doing the things she's supposed to. And they're telling me if I sign for things and she's not doing it, they'll hold me for fraud and this and that and blah, 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 blah. How can I stop this? This is harassment. I'm a senior citizen. I'm past 75 years old already, and I can't tolerate this. I have epilepsy. It's causing me to have seizures and everything.
You want to continue to have home health care?
Well, this is through the Department of Aging.
Yeah. No, but is home health care something that that you think you benefit from? That it's something that that you need?
She's a wonderful person. She does whatever I ask her to. She never says no. She's been very kind, very generous to me. Came Christmas time, she bought me something very nice for Christmas. I exchanged gifts with her, too, because I appreciate her. We get along. We're very close friends. I don't want to lose her.
So why is what agency? It's the Office of Aging? Or the agency that she works for?
The Office of Aging, yes.
All I can tell you is that when a patient needs home health care, there's usually it's usually something I have to sign off on. So and trust me, I don't say no to it. Of course I want patients to get services if they need it. I just wonder if there's some problem with has it not been properly authorized. Unfortunately, there's a lot of fraud in that industry throughout our whole nation, and that's led to a lot of excess paperwork and checklists and things like that. I'm just wondering if somewhere somebody has not completed the proper paperwork, unfortunately, which is what the problem is. Because the agency, that's how they make their living, too. The more people they have that gets their services, so they want you to have an aide. I think the argument is whether or not it's necessary. It sounds like it is. You have epilepsy. You're over 75.
Well, I have a very bad left foot. I can barely walk. I'm supposed to use a cane or a walker.
Yeah.
I have trouble walking. I walk like a crippled.
Do you see your regular doctor? Do you have a regular doctor?
Yes, at family practice.
Sure.
I have a regular neurologist for the epilepsy.
I think the problem is somebody somewhere hasn't completed the right paperwork, and unfortunately it can be very frustrating on the doctor end as well. Endless kind of faxing, and then if I don't sign it quick enough, they fax it a second time. That type of thing. It could really fill up my mailbox, so to speak. But I think somebody has not signed off on it, so to speak, and I think that's what the problem is.
Well, you see, sometimes she forgets to put down some of the things she does. They think that she's only doing shopping for me, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But she's doing more. She's cleaning the house. She vacuums. She sweeps. She mops. She cleans the counters for me. She does the furniture for me. She does a lot of things for me.
I agree. I don't know. I can't answer your question. She should document what she's doing better. I think that goes without saying. And I think that, I just can't help. I'm having a hard time figuring out what the problem is. It sounds like you definitely need the services of a home health aide. And I just can't help but think that someone hasn't signed off on it correctly. And therefore the agency says we have to, we can't keep having her come there because it's not getting paid for.
Yeah, because the nurse said when she comes here, she's going to check the entire apartment. So I got mad, and I told the supervisor there, is the nurse coming here with a pair of white gloves, and is she going to check with white gloves?
I think he has to contact his doctor and just make sure that the paperwork is all in order.
Yeah. I would schedule an appointment with your primary care doctor, and then this is something too. This should be a visit unto itself, okay? This should just call and ask for a checkup with your doctor and to review and document what you need and why you need it, and see if that helps fix the problem. I wish I could give you a better answer. There's some parts of the story that I'm not quite understanding, but I appreciate you calling, but just make a checkup with your doctor specifically for this reason. A lot of times, too often, it's an afterthought. Doctor, after you've checked everything, now do this, and there's only so much time, so that maybe the case hasn't been made.
They've been in touch with my doctors. They have my doctor's names. They have who I'm seeing and everything. I'm pretty sure they've been in touch with the doctors.
Well, ask them if they are missing paperwork from your doctor, okay?
All right. Thank you so much, and I know you're going off the air shortly, so thank you, and you have a good rest of the day.
All right, thank you.
Happy New Year to you.
We are actually nearing the end of our show.
Yes, we are, but we were discussing the riveting topic of neuropathy. Did you want to just sum up the topic?
Well, I kind of feel like I opened that can of worms without enough time to really address it. But I guess the take home is if you are having these symptoms, similar to what I always say, you shouldn't suffer with them, and you need to be evaluated. If you are diabetic, for example, we have to know that. If you're deficient in B12, for example, that can be fixed, and symptoms will improve. They might take a while to improve. My experience is it really can be a year or so before the B12 gets incorporated into the nerves and helps repair whatever has been going on there. We sometimes an EMG is a test that's ordered to kind of confirm exactly what's going on and what type. And I will usually, not always, but refer the patient to a neurologist as well, particularly if I can't figure out the diagnosis or the right treatment.
What happens if a symptom like that goes untreated?
Well, it depends, right? If someone has diabetes, for example, they're going to continue to have complications. It's going to get worse and worse, and they're going to potentially have more serious complications like a diabetic foot ulcer or an infection in their toe that will just get worse and worse. They'll suffer with symptoms. If medication is necessary, I guess the most commonly used medication now is something called gabapentin is used for it. For a long time, we were using these things called tricyclics, anything in triptyline. But there's concerns for safety concerns for people over 65, which are usually the ones with symptoms like this. I think alcohol is a biggie. I think if people have to limit their alcohol intake. So.
Okay, good advice.
Alcohol is complicated. If someone can't sleep, having a drink may help them fall asleep, but it won't keep them asleep. Ironically, it actually inhibits deep sleep, and then the person sometimes is wide awake at 4 a.m.
Right, double-edged sword there.
That's right. All right, so back to the topic of the day, which is COVID. We have to really double down, all right, on our prevention. Avoiding small gatherings. I'm looking forward to more broad testing. I think that's going to be helpful. I think the increasing accessibility of rapid testing. The vaccine is being rolled out. People should be open-minded and get it. I think most of the time the resistance is not really based in logic or science or common sense. And also remember that there's treatment if you are having symptoms from COVID or even not. I mean, there are, we've had some patients in the office who we referred for the antibody treatment who just fell into high risk categories and were not particularly symptomatic. So, and that, that's a concern that this treatment is not going to be offered enough. So remember that.
Interesting that Dr. Sack said it becomes more available to us as a community if it's accessed, if it's used. Interesting, right?
Yeah, it is interesting. And it sounds like that. We didn't have time to really ask him other questions, but I don't think it's a cost issue. I think it's coming. He said the state's distributing it because that's always a fear of mine. Yes, because a treatment like that's got to be very expensive. But if it's, it does not appear to be a cost issue. And then maybe next week I'll give you a little more feedback on my patients who've had it, if they seem to benefit from it or not.
Great, right? We're just learning, right, how they're going to do on it because you're just giving it for the first time, right?
Yeah. I do worry about the ERs are getting crowded. Believe it or not, there's a good time to go to the ER. Generally, ERs are not that busy in the mornings. So with this, for example, the patient I had on Saturday, she got tested, I think, on New Year's Eve. The result came back Saturday. I didn't say, Dr. Tack talked about doing it at 2 a.m. I didn't say to this patient, go to the ER right away. I said, no, just go to sleep, wake up in the morning, ER, and when I called her back in the morning, there were like 2 people in the ER, so it was much smoother. ERs get busier as the day goes on. So there's something to keep in mind. So the take home from you as far as COVID is concerned, you're seeing a lot of sick people, aren't you? Yeah. It's concerning, so I'm worried over this next month or so. An email from my organization again asking us, the office-based doctors, if we can cover the some work in the hospital. Remember, some doctors have also gotten sick, so they can't work. So a colleague of mine at Urgent Care is out and apparently sick with it, unfortunately. So this is scary stuff. And the amazement at the bravery that I see amongst the doctors, nurses, and hospital staff, day in and day out putting themselves at risk. Yeah, I'm amazed at that. All right, we are done for the week. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back next week.
Thank you, Dr. Eric Stanberg and Robin Baker, and Happy New Year to you, and Happy New Year to all of you. It's now 8:59, Monday, January 4th, 34 degrees now here in Uptown Kingston. This last portion of Kingston Community Radio was brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Many locations throughout the Mid-Hudson Valley, location near you. And you have been listening to Kingston Community Radio, KCR, AM 920 and 92.5 FM, WGHQ, and our live streaming on mykcr.org. Talk radio at its best, inspired discussions of, by, and for the community. And we invite you to be with us tomorrow morning at 7 a.m. for a terrific Tuesday with Cameron Rylance and Nina Postapak. And we now return you to Real Country Radio.